Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be focusing on graphing the equation of a line by finding the x and y intercepts of those graphs. We're going to show that mastery by scoring at least an 80% on an exit ticket. Hopefully you have your note sheet in front of you. If you don't, take out a separate sheet and we'll get you a fresh copy tomorrow. Now, the thing to keep in mind when we talk x-intercepts and y-intercept, an x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis, which makes sense. It's an x-intercept. Intercept means it's crossing somewhere, so it's crossing the x-axis. A y-intercept is where it crosses, now, the y-axis. We're going to be given two equations and we want to find it, but we can also look at a graph and find them from the graph. So, if we look at our first example, I want to find the x and y intercepts for 3x plus 4y equals 12. Now, it doesn't look like anything special, but this is what we call standard form of a linear equation, and we're going to get to focusing on what that all means in the next unit, but I want you to just see it. Now, to find the x-intercept, because it's on the x-axis, that means my y value is 0. So if I want the x-intercept, I'm going to plug 0 in for y. So I have 3x plus 4, I'm going to plug 0 in, and 12. Well, now if I use order of operations and I solve for x, 4 times 0 is 0, so I'm not even going to put that. 3x equals 12. If I divide both sides by 3, x is going to equal 4. Well, if x equals 4, that means my x-intercept is 4, 0. That 0 comes from back in the beginning of the problem when we put 0 in for y. So in my coordinate point, 0 has to be my y value. Now, if I want to find the y-intercept, again, this is along the y-axis, so I'm going to put in 0 for x. If I go back to my equation, I'm putting 0 in, so 3 times 0 plus 4y equals 12. Well, now I'm going to solve for y. 3 times 0 is 0, so I don't even have to write that. 4y equals 12. If I divide both sides by 4, y is equal to 3. Now be careful when you go to write this point. The x-intercept is 4, 0. My y-intercept, though, make sure you know where your variables are. Make sure you know where your x and y are. X is always the first number in your coordinate point, and y is always the second number. So if y equals 3, my point is going to be 0, 3. Make sure, it's really important that when you solve for these, make sure you pay attention to the variable. Because what can happen if it's a multiple choice and we're looking for the y-intercept, they can have 0, 3 and 3, 0. Well, 3, 0 wouldn't be correct because that's x is equal to 3, but we wanted y is equal to 3. Now, when we go to graph these, I'm just going to write it over here. My x-intercept was 4, 0, and my y-intercept was 0, 3. So now I need to graph them. Well, if I graph my x-intercept, and I'm going to graph it in red so you guys can see the colors, it's 4, so it's along the x-axis. My y is 0. If I graph my y-intercept, and I'm going to graph it in blue, it is 0, 3. So if you notice, and I keep saying they're on the x and y axis, my points fall on the axis. Now, we can connect the dots and make a straight line, but the important thing to keep in mind, that is your y-intercept, and that is your x-intercept. And you know which one's which because of which axis they fall on. If it's on the x-axis, it's the x-intercept. If they fall on the y-axis, it's the y-intercept. Now, if we look at the back, this time we have the equation y equals 3x minus 6. And again, you may not know this, but that is what we call slope-intercept form. We're going to get to that next unit, but I want to make sure that we see an example of it. We can still find my x and y intercepts. So again, my x-intercept is on the x-axis, so we're going to put 0 in for y. Now, if I have y equals 3x minus 6, I'm going to substitute 0 in, and now I need to solve for x. Well, I have 0 over here, so I'm going to add 6 on both sides. So 6 equals 3x. If I divide by 3, x is equal to 2. So my point becomes 2, 0. Now, when we go to find our y-intercept, Again, it's along that y-axis, so I'm going to substitute 0 in for x. Well, if I have my original equation, y equals 3x minus 6, y stays, and I have 3 times 0 minus 6. Well, if I do order of operations, 3 times 0 is 0, and 0 minus 6 is negative 6. So y is equal to negative 6. And again, just be careful where you put it. If it's y, it needs to be the second point in your coordinate point. If it's x, it needs to be the first point. So now let's graph them. My x-intercept is 2, 0. My y-intercept is 0, negative 6. And we need to make sure they fall on the lines. So if I have an x-intercept of 2, 0, well, there's my x-intercept, and my y-intercept of 0, negative 6. And again, keep in mind, it's important to remember, your x-intercept is on the x-axis, so that means you need a number for x. Y is 0. If it's your y-intercept, it falls on the y-axis, so you need a number for y, and x is going to be 0. Please bring your notes and any questions you have to class tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you then.